Hello and welcome to today's show. I'm Dal, and today we're going to talk about why some barrels don't seem to shoot certain bullets well and some of the reasons why. So right now, let's do the twist. Well, hello everyone. I have a show which was never intended to be a show, but as I was having a conversation with a friend and we were talking about barrels, and he had just recently wanted to try some 90 grain bullets in a 6.8 SPC to see if the groups would tighten up. And in fact, they shot much better for him. I asked him, I said, I bet the barrel you shot them out of was a 1 in 11 twist. He says, well, matter of fact, it was. Why is that? How would you know that? And it's because I've tried to explain to people in the past that when someone says 1 in 10 is horrible, and don't buy that, you're an idiot if you buy it, because the forum, we all agree, everybody agrees that 1 in 10 is garbage. You want to buy 1 in 11 is the preferred barrel, except for me, because I have one that's even slower at 1 in 11 and a quarter. And I'm the guru. This is the best barrel in the whole world to do this. And the problem with that is when you start going to these forums, there's a lot of very passionate people who may or may not have their hands on the facts. They may not necessarily be telling you a story. They just may be having some qualifications they don't quite understand with this. They may not understand the physics of what's going on, okay? So back in the day when they created the 6.8 special purpose cartridge, they had some chamber issues. They had the lead too short, and they had some pressure issues. Now with a 5.56, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time since I looked at it, did a 2.23, but in a military weapon, they tend to give it a little longer free bore before the bullet catches, just to make sure that any kind of random length bullet or whatever, that gun will eat anything you put in it. Accuracy is not necessarily the biggest issue. Reliability is a bigger issue, so they might sacrifice some of that by having the way the chamber's cut. Well, back in the day, the 6.8 had a problem with pressure, and then people blamed it on the 1 in 10 twist. They did, and that became an internet myth, a forum myth, that 1 in 10 was bad, and they pointed to a particular manufacturer, and really wasn't anything wrong with their barrels. I don't think they were cut at 1 in 10, but they had a different size muzzle threading that was different, but it wasn't 1 in 10. So then they got into trying to push it, and that's why they try to put the minimum amount of twist on it. And 1 in 11 may be just fine for some weights of bullets, but not for all. Now, my friend wanted to shoot was probably the most well-loved bullet for the 6.8, which is the 120 grain Hornady SST. It's a beautiful bullet for light game, deer, mule deer, anything in that area. You shoot varmints with it if you want to, pet predators with it if you want to. It's a good bullet. It's got a good ballistic coefficient, but some guns don't want to shoot them. Some guns do, and we're going to look at maybe some of the stuff that will affect it. Before I do that, if we were trying to shoot match, if we're trying to shoot match, I only have to worry about one part of that equation. I only have to worry about the in-flight ballistics. How does that bullet behave in flight? And I might be able to put a minimum amount of twist or rotation in my bullet to get it to fly where I want to. Once it hits, I don't care what it does. I'm just trying to punch a hole or ring a bell. But now if I'm a deer hunter, kind of going back to that military thing, I want reliability, but I also accuracy. I want the most accuracy I can get, but I also want terminal performance when my bullet hits my ballistic media out there in the field. I don't want anything to suffer, and I want to do a real good job, and if it happens to run, I want to be able to find it. Now, certain bullets, such as the VMAX, the varmint bullets, and the SST and others are designed to do damage by fragmentation. Okay, if you were to just go to the hardware store, garage, wherever you might have a nut, a machinist nut, a regular 1/4 nut or something, and put it on a string and start slinging around your head. It's going to hold that string tight, and it's going to go like that. As soon as you let go, it's going to be like David killing Goliath. That rock is going to go this way, that nut is going to go that way, and it's going to go just as soon as you turn loose of it. Now, if my hands were a bullet, and I'm not a little pointy on the top, I'm going forward, but I'm also going around in a circle. So just like that nut on the end of a piece of dental floss or a string, it's going like that. It's sticking together. That bullet is holding together because it's jacketed or whatever, it's holding together. But as soon as it hits something, maybe it wants to mush over the nose a little bit. Mushrooms, whatever. Those pieces of lead in that jacket is spinning maybe 200,000 RPMs. And as soon as it hits that, it's like that June bug. It's trying to go sideways. If a piece breaks off, take it horizontal. We're shooting something this way. It's rotating, holding together. As soon as it hits something, it comes apart. Those pieces are wanting to go anywhere along the clock face. They're trying to get away from the rotating axis, from that center of axis. But we're also still moving 3,000 or 2,500 or 2,000 feet per second. So it's still going this way, and it's trying to go this way. So your pieces, your chunks, your fragments go like a cone. They're gonna project out, and your exit wound may look more like a shotgun wound. It may actually be greater than the 2 times the diameter that the bullet is designed to mushroom, okay? So if it hits it, it's 277 coming in, and out it's twice 277. That's kind of the optimal, but you may find an exit wound much larger than that because those pieces, if they're heavy enough, if they're large enough, they're going to continue going out the other side like a shotgun, and they're also going to spread inside, doing some necessary work that we would want a hunting bullet to do. Terminal ballistics. So as a hunter, I might want a little faster twist rate than I might if I'm a target shooter. You ready for that? Okay. Now let's transition to this if I haven't run too long already. Okay, this is my old slideshow that I made when I was trying to explain this to somebody, and I found it on the hard drive. So let's talk about it. And if I'm on the right string, I should be able to go from here. I'm comparing 2 bullets, and I'm going to compare them all to the same thing. I'm only going to change the twist rate and the velocity when I change bullets. Okay, now here's the one that was being touted at the time as being the very best to have. A company called AR-15 Performance. And I'm putting through this in this model, the Hornady 130 grain bullet. You see right there the 130. You see its ballistic coefficient. And I'm saying in a realistic sense, I'm going to try to push this 2,250 feet per second. And I'm pushing it through this twist rate of this optimal 11.25 inches per rotation is twisting one. But my model down here, Burger, this I've pulled from Burger. So yeah, I should have Burger up there somewhere. Burger bullets. Okay, this is their stability calculator, their model. It says if I can only push this bullet 2250, it's saying I want a 1 9.5 inch twist. I want 1 9.5. But what did ARP cut them at? They cut them at 1 11.25. And you see where it says that it's predicted is to not be very stable. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to tumble, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's not good for hunting. But we would expect our group size to increase. The more unstable, the more along this line it goes, I would expect the groups to open up. I just would. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would expect that. Let's move to the next twist rate. Okay, here was one, same bullet, 130 grain bullet in a 1 11 twist, because beside the other, this was kind of the industry standard 1 11. And for the 130 grain bullet, if I can only push it 2250, it's still going to think the rotational model for that gyroscopic stability is still going to want to see 1 9.5. And I'm not 1 9.5, I'm 1 11. And I've moved, let's go back. See, we moved from almost 1.1 to now to 1.14. Let's move another twist rate a little faster. Let's go to 1 10. So here we are at 1 10. Unfortunately, this company, I think it was out of Washington, they are no longer in business, but they were making theirs at 1 10. And at 1 in 10, we've improved the SG on this, so we're getting really, really close. We're not quite 9.5, but we're 10. So we see we're moving much more stable. So now let's go to the bullet that most people do shoot that I know of. They're very popular by my estimate. See, I missed one. I've got 1 in 7. My gun, my barrel, is only 11.5 inches. I haven't changed the speed, but I'm saying if I change the twist rate to 1 in 7, I'm very stable. Okay. Now let's move to the next bullet. Next bullet is the 120 SST 6.8 or 277 diameter, and it's a little shorter because it's been squished, so it's a little fatter, a little longer in percentage, so it has a little more rounded nose, so it actually feeds it through the M4 feed ramps well, but it's also a little shorter, which gives a little more case volume inside, and so we're able to go. So let's look at what that bullet at 0.40 instead of 409, and it's a 120 grain instead of 130, and we're upped it by 200 feet per second to make up for the fact it's a lighter bullet, and this is more practical. This is more reasonable to have this bullet going at 2450. And here it says it wants to have a 1 in 10.8. The Berger stability calculator says it wants to see this bullet move at 1 in 10.8 if I can only push it 2450. And that would be running through this 1 in 11.25. Let's move it to the next one, the 1 in 11. Well, at 1 in 11, it's gosh darn near comfortably stable. And if we move it same further into a 1 in 10 twist, we see that the 120 SSTs by this predictive model should shoot very stable and very well in a 1 in 10 twist if we get it to go 2450. Now, let's move it to the 1 in 7. It's extremely stable at that point. I'm twisting a little bit more. I'm not going but 2450, which means now let's talk just very, very briefly. If I had an 18-inch barrel, 1 in 11 may very well stabilize the 120, this 120 grain SST bullet if I have it in an 18-inch or longer. It probably wouldn't do too terribly bad in 16. But the shorter that I cut it off at 1 in 11, it's going to need that speed to keep that gyroscopic stability, because the gyroscopic stability is a function of that diameter of the bullet, not how fast the bullet flies. But the way we make it turn those RPMs is by the number of feet per second going through a twist rate. How many feet it takes in there, if that makes sense. So the faster we twist it, the slower that bullet can be to still keep the same amount of gyroscope going. Now, if I were going 16 or below, I'd probably want 1 in 10 if I had hopes of running this 120 grain bullet. Now, if I had 1 in 11, I just may be limited to get the group size I want. I might have to go to 110 grain or maybe even 100 grain, but I would certainly expect the 90 grains to outperform in the group size. Not only are they faster, which means less wind resistance in the short haul, but it's going to be more stable, all things being equal. Now, a light bullet is flatter at first and then nosedives, and a heavier, longer bullet is more evenly arced over time. That's just how ballistics works. So, your barrel length and your rate of twist are locked together. How they work. So, if someone tells you one is absolutely the best and you're an idiot if you go something else, you need to start asking some additional questions. What are you shooting? Why are you shooting? Why is this superb? Whatever. And when you got into this particular caliber, it turns out the 1 in 10 got blamed because the chamber was all, that's what they started with when they started with that old chamber. And that was the cause, not the 1 in 10, because you can still buy some 1 in 10 barrels. If you're going 18 or larger, maybe 111 will work for you. If you're going to go shorter, 1 in 10. If you're going to go super short, probably wouldn't hurt to have something a little faster. But plug the numbers in your Berger ballistic stability calculator and see what you get. So that's about all we need to go. I think we're probably talked this to death. It's a complicated thing for people to visualize. but it's just the fact. Your speed that you get out of the barrel is going to be a function of the length. The bullet length is going to have a lot into the requirements for how fast how fast you have to turn that is a function of the diameter. But when the bullet gets long, it also gets heavy. And when it gets heavy, it means you can't push it as fast. So as you start to push heavier bullets, you're losing velocity, which means you might need to look at whether you need to speed that rate of twist up. All right, that's it. For a non-show show, this has gone on long enough. And I hope you have a good rest of the day or evening and tomorrow.